It's literally, this is not a bit. It's literally not done. So to be honest, what really happened, we were like, we're gonna show the movie, and the studio was like, no, you're gonna show 20 minutes. So we're like, no, we're gonna show the movie. And they're like, it's not done. And I was like, they don't care. They're like, if everything's not perfect and it's not done, and what if we're gonna change things? I was like,
Want it to go
I literally brought the movie with me on the airplane. Like I have like a folder, like a disc, like a hard drive.
Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. So, Blake Lively seems to be indirectly accusing content creators like me of being part of a conspiracy to take her down and smear her. Yes, she is, and I'm definitely taking notice, especially regarding a specific part of her new amended complaint. A video reel I shared on Instagram has gone viral, racking up over 5 million views. Because of that, several media outlets, including US Weekly and Daily Mail, picked up my Instagram video and published stories about its content. In the video, Blake Lively talks about an event with Colleen Hoover, where she mentioned taking a copy of the film It Ends With Us to the event, despite the studio's direction and without their permission. She's accusing content creators like me of somehow getting this information from Justin Bond's team, which led to my content being leaked to the Daily Mail, as if it were part of some conspiracy. I want to share her claims from her new amended complaint regarding this alleged conspiracy between content creators like me and the Daily Mail. And just to be clear, at no point during this process have I spoken to anyone. I want to clarify that I have not spoken to Justin Baldwin, his defense team, or anyone connected to Blake Lively or Ryan Reynolds. The only conversations I've had are with others who have also been accused of participating in this smear campaign. Additionally, I want to emphasize that I haven't talked to any journalists over the past year regarding Blake Lively, whether from Daily Mail, TMZ, BuzzFeed, New York Post, Newsweek, Page 6, or similar outlets. In her amended complaint, she claims, based on information and belief, that the Wayfair team coordinated social media content with content creators on online chat platforms like Reddit and smaller publications with lower editorial standards. This content was then amplified by sharing it with larger publications such as Page 6, Daily Mail, Newsweek, New York Post, TMZ, and BuzzFeed, which have wider audiences and greater reach, thereby significantly increasing the negative sentiment towards Miss Lively. Content from these lesser-known sites was frequently linked or referenced in articles on these more influential platforms. The social manipulation campaign orchestrated by Mr. Baldwin and Wayfair aimed to create and maintain a negative news cycle and social media narrative surrounding Miss Lively. Throughout her amended complaint, she is attempting to convey that this smear campaign is a coordinated effort and that her role in the film and its editing was not a takeover. She asserts that she did not profit any more than anyone else, suggesting that the negativity directed at her is a result of Baldwin's actions. The issue is that there are many people on social media like myself who sift through archives, examine court records, and analyze documents to form our own opinions. Much of what she complains about in her amended complaint regarding the hostility and backlash she faces stems from the court documents and the responses from content creators like me. She files documents in court and then those are discussed on social media. The content she submits to the court isn't being received in the way she hopes, which leads her to believe that content creators like me are somehow colluding with others. I'm not naive enough to think that social manipulation doesn't occur. There are definitely agents online trying to plant seeds of doubt and sway public opinion. Personally, I'm not mentioned in her complaint, but my video, which has 5.7 million views, was referenced in the Daily Mail. She claims in her article that content creators like me are being fed this information, which is untrue. Other content creators have also pointed out that she referenced their work in her previous complaint, falsely stating that my video was posted at the behest of Justin's team. Instead of Blake Lively taking responsibility for the fact that she or someone from her team leaked the CRD to the public and to the New York Times, she deflects and accuses his side of launching a retaliation campaign against her CRD complaint. It seems she believes she can say whatever she wants while expecting no one else to respond. If she's going to file a lawsuit, there are consequences. People have the right to defend themselves. That's how the court system operates. So now, she's going to accuse Justin's side of defamation for simply defending themselves. She'll label Justin's defense as a smear campaign. But is it really a smear campaign or is it just a legitimate defense? Defendants are entitled to defend against claims made against them, and they have the right to present evidence that counters those claims. One effective way to challenge false allegations is to examine the credibility of the person making the complaint. What stands out to me about Blake is that I wasn't on the set of this film, and I don't know Justin or Blake personally. However, I do know that Blake has a history of making statements that suggest she undermines productions to assert her own influence. She seems to feel unfulfilled as an actress and desires to take on more creative control. In interviews, she has even admitted to lying to the press because they don't fact-check her claims. It's interesting to note that no one has ever compared Ryan Reynolds to Martha Stewart. As for the tweet about the cookies, I made them and they turned out terrible. I take pride in my baking skills and I often talk about being a good cook, but sometimes things just don't go as planned. Interviews can be tricky because nobody's really tasting your food, so they can't fact-check anything. Everyone's just saying, "Oh, Blake, you're such a great chef. Tell me about that," without knowing the truth. Blake has also admitted in previous Glamour articles that while filming Gossip Girl, she turned the cast against Penn Badgley after he was hired because she didn't like him. She wanted everyone on set to dislike him too, and she succeeded. Later, she realized she was wrong about him, but by then her influence had already swayed others' opinions. When someone shows you who they are, you have to take them at their word. So when you read her complaints, it's essential to consider her past actions. Can we trust these allegations? She'll need to prove her case in court and in the court of public opinion, but given her history, many people are skeptical. Now she's trying to rally content creators and the public, claiming we're all in on it with Boney. The truth is, a lot of us don't even know who Boney is or care, but we do see that some of her statements don't align with reality. Blake Lively seems to think this is a smear campaign. She made that judgment in August, well before any evidence came to light. In her amended complaint, she mentions receiving a message from another cast member on August 11, 2024, pointing out the apparent smear campaign against her. Lively and the cast were incredible. Miss Lively responded, "Yeah, I'm genuinely depressed and heartbroken, feeling an immense amount of pain." She expressed that it's affecting all of us, including them. By saying this, she's making them feel attacked too, suggesting there's a smear campaign against them. If that's the case, she'll need to prove it in court. Right now, it doesn't seem that way, but she references an email she sent to Christy Hall, the screenwriter of the film. Blake Lively's actions trying to sway people against others seem to be her own admission. When I see her text messages calling Justin an evil sociopath, it raises the question, is she trying to turn them against him? These are the kinds of things a jury will have to consider. As an outsider looking at the overall situation, it seems that when she finds herself in difficult situations, like claiming authorship of scenes she may not have written and asserting she was a writer for this film when she wasn't, it directly affects the actual writers. There was a real screenwriter for this film, and while she might want you to think that she and her husband were significant contributors, it's Christy Hall who developed this film and adapted the book. Christy Hall had to respond to these claims. There are questions surrounding Blake Lively's claims about writing the rooftop scene. On the red carpet, Blake mentioned that her husband was the one who actually wrote it. However, Christy also claimed on the red carpet that she was the one who wrote the rooftop scene. This led Blake to send an email to Christy in an attempt to smooth things over. Let me share what Christy had to say about the rooftop scene. When Blake saw the script, she wasn't happy with how the rooftop scene was written, nor did she like the way the Christy Hall scene was portrayed. She felt the need to rewrite the script, wanting to take Christy's work and make it her own. As she mentioned before, she desires authorship. Christy succinctly stated that the hardest scene for her to write was the rooftop scene because in the book, it's a lengthy chapter with a lot happening, and there isn't enough time in a film to cover it all. They had to narrow it down and decide what to keep and what to cut, and the performers delivered outstanding performances. At no point does she mention that the rooftop scene was written by Ryan Reynolds, because it wasn't. It was written by Christy Hall, and Ryan Reynolds is not credited as the author of that scene. So when all of this unfolded, Blake needed to get ahead of the situation. She had to deflect and win Christy over, so she filed a complaint on the same day. She reached out to screenwriter Christy Hall after being questioned about an offhand comment she made regarding Mr. Reynolds' input on the rooftop scene. Blake offered a sincere apology for her comment, leading to questions directed at Christy, which Christy graciously accepted, clarifying that she didn't take Blake's comment personally. Meanwhile, Mr. Baloney and Mr. Sarowitz were plotting with their crisis PR team that there's an opportunity here to shift the narrative and portray Mr. Reynolds as anti-feminist. The video I showed you featured Christy Hall on the red carpet, and then People magazine published an article after Blake Lively mentioned that Ryan wrote a particular scene. This caught people's attention, and they reached out to Christy to clarify who actually wrote the scene. This was Blake's attempt at damage control. They quoted Christy, who explained that the specific scene was one of the most challenging to adapt because it was so well done in the novel. She said, "In my first attempt at the scene, I really tried to honor what Colleen wrote, almost word for word, because I believe she did it best. The tricky part is that the scene is long, but I'm proud of my work and I feel the essential beats are preserved. Colleen did it best and it originated from her. I think that scene beautifully reflects what she created from the start." Paul mentioned that she wasn't aware that Reynolds had added to the dialogue in the final cut. She noted a few lines that seemed improvised, like when he says, "Pretty please with a cherry on top," and she references the maraschino cherries. When I saw the cut, I thought, oh, that's cute. It must have been a cute improvised moment. So if I'm being told that Ryan wrote that, then great, how wonderful. There were a few little flourishes that I didn't write, but I assumed they were improvised on set. However, as I mentioned, the moments that I felt needed to be honored are there, and I recognized the scene. I'm proud of it, and if those extra touches came from Ryan, I think that's fantastic. Christy Hall is not a defendant in this case. In that article, Christy clearly states she wrote the scene, mentioning that there seemed to be some improvisation, which now Blake is claiming Ryan wrote first. Personally, the maraschino cherry part of that scene is so cheesy. It wasn't in the book. It felt like they were trying to add something funny that really didn't need to be there. But Blake saw that article and felt like she was being smeared, as if they were trying to pit Christy and Ryan against each other or cast doubt on Blake's credibility. The question to Christy wouldn't have even come up if Blake hadn't made that statement on the red carpet, and that's the main point. What she included in the complaint is her email to Christy, where she wrote, "I heard you were ambushed at your junket with a question about something I said on the red carpet. I feel awful. I never would have said anything that I thought could be used against you or anyone. I was just proud of my partner and grateful for the ways he supports me. I firmly believe that two things can coexist. In this case, he can show up for me and do great work, and you can do great work too, which is what brought us all here. However, the media tends to simplify things, making them more black and white, and I should have anticipated that before speaking off the cuff. I was frazzled for many reasons, some of which you might know and some you might not. In that moment, my focus was on love and positivity, and my family is the key source of that for me. That's why it felt like a crutch to talk about him. I was mortified that it came across in a way that affected you. I take pride in being thoughtful and avoiding landmines, but I made an avoidable mistake, and I'm truly sorry for any upset or hurt it may have caused you. That was never my intention. I was thinking about how audiences love to see real-life love reflected on screen, and I should have been mindful of both that and you while speaking publicly. I regret discussing you during the many days of junkets, and of course, the one that gets shared back to you is the one where I acknowledge my husband for the invisible work he did on this movie. I honestly could not have made it through without him in every way, but that's not your burden to bear, and somehow it felt like it was, even if just for a moment. There were things that happened on set that Chrissy might not have been aware of, which is strange and unnecessary for her comments. She's making a mistake by publicly claiming credit for a scene she didn't write, while Chrissy mentioned that there were minor changes added, which she thought were improvisations. Chrissy is turning that into a narrative of, "My husband wrote it and I was proud of him," suggesting that the audience wanted to see that. I apologize, but I was flustered because of the manipulative behavior of someone involved, and I truly regret it. Then she claims that Chrissy accepted her apology, but she doesn't show Chrissy's response at all. I noticed that Blake was blaming content creators for sharing snippets and amplifying them into articles. And this is highlighted as an example within the same few pages of a conflict between her and Chrissy based on her own remarks. Blake's lack of awareness, or perhaps her keen awareness of her visibility, contributes to the issue. The problem with the rooftop scene wouldn't have arisen if she didn't have an inflated ego. She seemed to feel that her contributions needed more recognition beyond just being an actress. She wanted some authorship. However, the reality is that there was a real author who wrote the book and a screenwriter who crafted the screenplay. It's quite similar to how she's targeting content creators, and while I am not mentioned in this lawsuit, I noticed many linked accounts on Instagram with anonymous faces making comments that are now part of a larger issue. The lawsuit is being pursued without any discretion, disregarding the fact that the individuals leaving comments are real people with genuine feelings and emotions. They have the right to express their opinions, and it's unclear whether some of them are bots. Many comments shared here come from everyday individuals like you and me simply engaging with a post. Yet it feels like every interaction is being manipulated, whether it's Christy Hall commenting to People magazine about Blake's remarks or content creators like myself sharing videos. We all seem to be part of this narrative, which is confusing. While she engages with others, she continuously paints Justin as the villain, suggesting there's a smear campaign against her, without realizing that she is the one stirring the pot. I can't comment on what transpired on set since I wasn't there, but I can say that I've collaborated with numerous YouTube content creators and have spoken to some involved in this situation. It's clear that innocent individuals are being weaponized in her personal vendetta against Justin, which is absurd. If I ever find myself dragged into her lawsuit, I would be infuriated, as it feels deeply offensive to label someone like me a low-influence creator in such a way. Independent journalism, like that of many content creators out there, often starts at a low level of influence. Then higher-profile outlets like the Daily Mail pick it up, which serves as a reminder that we all feel inferior in comparison. It can make us feel stupid and ignorant, which doesn't help the public narrative against her. Blake can sometimes be her own worst enemy. I'll go on record to say that, Blake, the only influence I see is coming from your own actions and reactions to all of this. You claim to be getting smeared publicly, yet you also admit that your attorneys are responding to things in the press. HR complaints are leaking online, and it seems like you're part of that too. So, is it a smear campaign against you, or are you the one launching the smear campaign? That's going to be the question for the jury. I know I had nothing to do with it. If the Daily Mail or any other outlet picks up my content, I have no control over that. Most content creators are in the same boat. We often get followed by journalists because we're the ones discussing things before the mainstream media catches on. So, Blake, what are your thoughts on all of this? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and click the bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, everyone.